Um, Sorry, I just thought I'd hit the record before I forget. No, the thing in Japan is the Japanese whiskeys are pretty good. Although for people who like Scotch, so over the holidays I got something called Black, and which you get the nice version. It's only like $12 a bottle. After inflation, it's probably like $9 a bottle, and tastes like Scotch. So
Yeah.
when my parents were visiting a few months ago, we had some like actual good Scotch, and we had that, and I was like, there is a difference, but it's not a major difference. Like it's pretty good cheap stuff, which I would stay as far away as possible from cheap liquor because that makes me think of bad times from university, right?
Yeah.
Like just seeing
Or
the Evan Williams label makes me feel slightly ill.
yeah, I try to stay away from the cheap beers because those are only things you drink when you're like, like those cheap high percentage beers. Like something like in your younger days you would just drink even though it tastes like nastiness, but just to get you more screwed up or whatever, effed up.
Yeah, in Japan, because they have Chuhai, which I like, but
Mhm.
then they have the strong ones, and I usually avoid the strong ones. I'm like, I don't really need that. I'm not looking to get hammered as soon as possible. But a few years ago, I went into the general store near the kind of countryside house, the traditional family house, and like all they had was the strong stuff. I was like, oh, I guess the farmers around here just get hammered after they finish farming. Maybe that's what's going on here. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I guess I am ready. Well, let me do the prologue before we start rolling, because then I make an edit point for myself later, or I avoid an edit point later. Oh, how's my voice sounding? Is it not? Is it crackling or cutting out?
No, pretty good. I think the only episode that it was most noticeable was it the Love Guru? I
I
think that was
noticed
the
it
one
with
you were
Love
really having
Guru.
problems.
Yeah, yeah. I think what was happening is it might be a little bit of a connection thing, especially I think my daughter was like doing online school at the same time that day,
Yeah.
and then just the gain, like if I notch the gain up slightly, like to here it's a very small change, but now I probably am cutting out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
a little bit of audio issue, but nothing too severe.
No, I know it bugs me more than like everybody else, so as
Yeah.
the guy that is one, the guy saying the stuff, and two, doing the editing and audio stuff, it's just like driving, it was driving me like crazy. So
Yeah.
um but I think it's under control now, so I turned the gain back down, and hopefully we're fine. Let me do a quick edit to make this readable.
Viva
Readable.
Lost Twilight Zone.
Was that?
Viva Lost Twilight Zone.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I didn't know what this episode was, but Luke's girlfriend and sister, who you might have heard on a few,
Yeah, Mercy.
Mercy and Anna, are like actually from like a just over the border town. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if I should have
Yeah.
asked them. Luke's
Yeah.
actually there at the moment. He's visiting.
Oh, okay.
He said
Nice.
he went into the States for the first time ever. So
Wow.
I guess I just went over the border into Texas or whatever. I don't know if it's which states above her town, but yeah,
Yeah.
because we've already done a few with them. So what else is on the calendar? I'm sure. I think they're moving in together in April, so Mercy might just be in the background of
Oh,
a
okay.
lot of
For some
equipment.
reason, I thought they already kind of did live together.
No, he goes to Tokyo, or she comes here almost every weekend. And but yeah, yeah, our company's opening a new school, and
Yeah.
he's gonna go work at that one. So
Because yeah, I've liked it when you guys had her on a few times, and I think she's been on one or two of Luke's shows, and
right, right.
yeah, it's
So
pretty
she
nice.
might. I
Like I
mean,
told you, like when we have Charlene Schmidt and other people like that, it's nice to always get a woman perspective in such
yeah,
a male dominated podcast world, I guess.
yes, yes. So yeah, come April, it might just, how sometimes in podcasts there's that person in the back that just kind of speaks up sometimes, like your
Yeah.
jokey producer or something.
Yeah.
But
You
that's
guys get
fine.
a little crazier when there's four of you, I noticed. Like when
Oh,
you do
right.
the top 100 and the bottom 100, I'm blanking on the name of it right now with
The
the
films and
films and
filth. Yeah,
filth. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
Like a little craziness though.
you get everything from the Patreon feed. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
uh, so you
I
occasionally.
definitely get my money's worth here, I'll tell you that
Okay.
much.
Okay. Good. Because yeah, what do you miss with that? You miss a spot of music, which is neither here nor there, and
Yeah.
it depends when I hit the record. So Like
Yeah.
today, what did we do? We chatted for 5 minutes. I was like, oh, I should probably hit the record, but that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have asked you in the past, like, have you ever forgotten to? And I think you said you have like maybe once or twice.
I remember, I think it was after hours. I started doing. It was like maybe in the middle of the trivia or at the start of the prologue, and I was like, "Oh crap! We haven't been
Yeah.
recording this whole time." But that was like 5 minutes, so it wasn't the end of the world.
I was also
Um,
going to ask, are you ever going to bother updating your whole schedule, or are you just going to kind of wing it
oh,
or go with it? Like, because you had that whole thing planned out for like the next 2 or 3 years,
for films and filth,
for that and for Twilight Zone, didn't you too? Like, you had those kind of planned out.
I do. I mean, Twilight Zone. I've been getting a little wishy washier with recently, and I'll make
Mhm.
the season 4 list soon.
Okay.
If you're curious, let's see. Luke was originally enlisted for this one, but he's in Mexico, so I called you. Uh,
Yeah.
next week is the week after that's the Dummy with Andrew, Young Man's Fancy with Mark, Icing the Body Electric with Brian, and then you and Luke for Cavender is
Oh,
coming.
sweet. So Luke is still penciled in. I was hoping because that's one of my big things. I'm like, I hope to do an episode with Luke one day.
Yeah. So that's probably going to be Cavender is coming, which
Nice.
the conceit there is like you want him on the dumb episode, so we're dragging him
Yeah.
in on the dumb episode. And
Yeah.
changing the guard, I haven't nailed down the time yet, but Amisha, who was on the first season, I emailed her because like, oh, I got because people asked me like, is there an episode? And I was like, I should go ask a few people who I haven't asked for a while, so
Yeah.
that's certainly someone I should ask. So.
Yeah. I
And
still
like
need
you
a
said, they make it not be like just a dude fest, a white
yeah.
dude fest.
Who is the other woman you bring on? There's Charlene, and then there's another one, but she
Jessica
hasn't been on.
Jessica uh
Okay.
Lynn Verity has been on a few times. She was
Yeah.
last
Was
on
she the one that did the Beavis and Butthead
that was Charlene
one with you?
actually. That
Okay,
was
that was
Charlene,
Charlotte.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Jessica last time she was on with us was for the Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas.
Oh yes, okay. That was a good one too. That's where I had taken a month off Patreon and then and then I came back and I'm like, oh, that's the first thing I get when I came back. Hell yeah. Viva Las Vegas, Viva Rock Vegas.
I mean, hey, if you want what's the other inside chatter? Coming up on the Films and Filth. 2001 is just coming out today, which is with Mike.
Yeah.
And I also, like 3 years ago, I think, it was during heavy lockdown. We got on Dan Richter, who is Moonwatcher in the movie. And we were actually mostly talking to him about John Lennon because he had been John's right hand, Yoko's right hand man for 3 years. But he was also Moonwatcher in 2001. So we did a segment about that, and I just edited it at the end of the episode. You won't get that though because you got the Patreon.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just up that or something.
Yeah, I remember you did talk about splicing something into that episode.
Yeah, next week is Piranha. Oh, I posted these, haven't I? Piranha 3D and Reservoir Dogs. You've heard those already. See, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the actual release dates because those have not yet been released. Bucky
Yeah.
Larson, Born to Be a
Oh,
Star.
geez, that made the list. Of course it did.
That will not have a guest that I know of. Dorian, who is on Vertigo, will be in for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Um, one of Mark's Atlanta guys is on for the Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl 3D. Mike Richards for Requiem for a Dream. Mark's Atlanta guy for Mac and Me, and so on. So that's the near future of films and filth. I still have the lists here.
Nice.
If
No,
you
and I
go to
still got the list that you sent me. But
mm-hmm.
I just figured things got bumped, dates and
Oh yeah,
obviously.
I just took the dates off the list. The
Yeah.
Films and Filth Twitter, I think Luke made it a pinned post where it lists all the movies, so
Yeah.
it's not like supposed to be a secret. There's been so many changes. If you go now, I mean, like Oppenheimer's on the list, of course. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do wonder if we should I mean, when we're finished with the main list, go get things that showed up later, or do a special thing sometime. Um, and then I already have my birthday pick, which I don't know, I could leave that as a surprise or tell you, but
I think I want to be surprised. I'll be
okay.
surprised.
Although Mark guessed it straight up, but yeah, he's known me for a while, so because he was like, oh, you haven't said what it is yet. I was like, can you guess it? And he just said it. It was the first guess, and I was like, I didn't tell you that, did I? No, I just guessed it.
Thanks.
Okay, let me leave a 5-second silence because I'll need to spot where this episode starts, and then I'll get
Yep.
going.
Okay.
Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast, where we delve into all the episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. As always, this is Matt here. Coming back for another round is Sean. How are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
okay. You
what's up,
sound
man?
exciting.
Yeah.
Excited.
Hey, Viva Lost Twilight Zone. We're in the
Right on.
Twilight Zone tonight, or again,
Yeah,
I should say.
yeah, I was saying before we start recording, I'm very glad you're here. I think this will be a good conversation. And I watched this episode not knowing what it was. And as I was watching it, I was sitting there thinking, oh, we have regular guests who live just south of the border. So just as a disclaimer, if I had
Yeah,
known, I might have like switched the episodes a little bit. But here we are doing this.
yeah.
So just doing a disclaimer. So I was in there, oh, okay. But that's the thing, there's some episodes that everybody knows, and I might even have to like flip a coin on which guest is on that because a few people asked for it. But this
I
is one that
figured, um, I figured I had got this one because either A, people didn't know what it was, or B, they did know what it was and were like, no, I'm good. That's what I
yeah.
figured.
Well, yeah, there's a few regular guests who I just assign episodes to, and there's a few regular guests that ask for them at the beginning of each season, and
Yeah,
so I bet you can work out which ones are which. So
yeah. I'm sure somebody suggested the dummy for the next one because that's a pretty big one.
Dummy's been grabbed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd went over me with the list earlier, but I was saying I'm sure that was one that was called out right away because that's a pretty big,
Right, right.
pretty big episode.
So I came in. One, I don't agree with this. I don't know if he's watched Mr. Dingle anytime recently, but a few weeks ago, my father was like, "Yeah, I got ahead watching a few episodes," and he thought this was the dumbest one he'd seen, which I don't agree with. Really, it's not my favorite one by any means, but it's not one of those ones where I'm like, palm fisting my forehead or whatever. So face palming myself. There, I knew I got the thing wrong.
Yeah, definitely. I got bigger gripes with other episodes than I do with this one. This one is like middle of the road for me. It's
Yeah,
nothing good. It's nothing great. And it's kind of surprising. It's written by Rod Serling. It
that's
and
right.
it also showed not everything can be a winner with him. You know.
Well, I've definitely found the later half of the third season, you can feel that maybe Rod is not quite as engaged as he was for the first two and a half
Yeah.
seasons.
And speaking of not as engaged, this is Buck Houghton's last season too as producer. He would
Right,
go on to
right.
leave the series after season three because once they went to the hour format, he was already getting burned out by then, I guess.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into some weird waters. Keeping in mind that there are some extremely good episodes in those two seasons, but
Yeah.
I think we're already starting to see a little bit of fatigue at the end of season three and some very good episodes. I mean, I'm just looking at the list. I remember
Yeah.
changing the guard being pretty good. This one's perfectly good to watch. The trade ins, that
And
was
then
a great
they
one.
sneak in a is it Ray Bradbury? I think
Yeah,
that's
I,
yeah.
I sing the body
They
electric.
they sneak in a script from him, but again, that's not necessarily if you were to pick out of all Ray Bradbury scripts, I don't know if that's one you would grab and be like, hey, I want this one.
Well, spoiler, that is a requested episode as far as the
Ooh.
guests go on this one. So uh,
Mm.
we'll get there pretty soon. I will read a bit of trivia just to get this
Okay.
one rolling. Original air date was April 27th, 1962. As you said, script is a Serling. Alan H. Miner directed. He was all over 60s television with credits on shows like Mission Impossible and Perry Mason. I say the words Perry Mason so much on the show. This
Yeah.
is his only Twilight Zone. The music is by Lorenzo Almeida. Hopefully, I said that correctly. He is a legendary Brazilian guitarist. I recognize his name even if I couldn't pronounce it correctly. He helped develop bossa nova with Bud Shank and won Grammys in both jazz and classical categories. In terms of soundtracks, he supplied music for over 800 film and TV productions. Jeffrey
Yeah.
Horn was Williams. He also appeared in films such as The Bridge on the River Kwai and The Strange One. This is his only time in the zone, though. Anthology series fans can also find him in the Outer Limits episode, The Guests. Pedro was played by Edmund Vargas. His resume is pretty short, 11 credits on IMDb. Uh, they do include an episode or two of Wagon Train, Gunsmoke, and My Three Sons. Cliff Osmond was Manalo. He appeared in over 100 films and TV shows, including a hippie on Ironside, and he showed up in Here's Lucy and All in the Family. The guitarist on screen was Vladimir Sokolov. This was his third Twilight Zone appearance, as he was also in Dust and the Gift. This episode may be the first posthumous appearance on the Twilight Zone, as Sokolov passed away 2 months before air date. Okay, I will share the screen and give you a prologue
Real
to
quick,
read.
just to wrap up the trivia here. The
Yeah,
boy
sure.
who played Pedro,
Uh huh.
Edmund Vargas. I found this a little funny fact. So he played on Bob Hope Presents Chrysler Theater, and he played as an Indian boy. So I don't know. He plays Mexican, he plays Indian, whichever way you want to throw
Well, that was the thing with Zoklov. He was Eastern European, and they
him.
would just like slot him in for any ethnicity. I
Yeah,
guess. I
Russian,
guess.
French, Italian, a couple. Yeah, I saw that too.
I guess they do that with Ben Kingsley these days. Like you said, you were listening to us on the Love Guru, where we were like, "Why is he here?"
He owed a favor to the director. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess everyone just wanted to be in a Mike Myers movie in 2007, but not by the end of 2008. So that could be the reason.
It's times like these. I wish I could have that really dry mouth and have my teeth showing and talk that Rod Serling voice. And I can't do it as good as there's one guy on here that does it pretty good. I can't, you got to get the mouth the correct way, the teeth showing. I can't do it, but I will do a prologue.
Just to tell you, I can't do it either. That's why I have other people do it.
All right. The place is Mexico, just across the Texas border, a mountain village held back in time by its remoteness and subtly intruded upon by the 12th century. And this is Pedro, 9 years old, a lonely, rootless boy who will soon make the acquaintance of a traveler from a distant place. A distant place, sorry about that. We are at present 40 miles from the Rio Grande, but any place and all places can be the Twilight Zone.
I'm gonna just throw at you one more verbal typo you got. You said the 12th century, so the whole
Oh,
second
oh,
half, the whole second half of the prologue, I was imagining like,
the 20th century. Yeah,
knights rolling into this little mountain town. Well, I guess it kind of happened with Cortez and crew. So
I guess
that,
some dyslexia kicked in or something. I was
yeah, that.
jumbling letters together.
Oh well, I mean, when you're
And
reading
this wasn't even a long prologue either.
type on screen, it's very easy to just start looking at the next line. And then
Yeah,
I think tend to mush mouth the trivia a lot in a similar manner. But no, I just started getting these images in my mind of the knights rolling into the town, and I thought that was kind of fun. Um,
yeah,
of course, in this episode, it's an alien, which I thought this was a pretty good alien vibe, mainly because we've seen such goofy aliens in some recent episodes. I like the Hocus Pocus and Frisbee aliens, but they're a little goofy. Um,
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
kind
There's
of
a little bit goofiness. I kind of had the same thought when it came to alien when it comes to aliens and the Twilight Zone. You kind of don't know what you're going to get sometimes because you do have things like Mr. Dingle the Strong. You'll have episodes like The Fugitive. Sorry, little cough there. You have these really like I don't know these cheap. That's all they could do because it was early sci-fi. They didn't have a lot to go off of, but these really cheap, wacky looking outer limits like effects, like creatures. And this one, I don't know. This alien kind of gives like a Jesus vibe.
yeah.
Like,
One of my notes says getting quite gaudy here. I
yeah,
was inventing the word gaudy. I guess I don't know. I had to look at my
yeah.
note twice to be honest, but I worked it out.
I
Um,
mean, so it's not a goofy looking alien like Mr. Dingle the Strong and the Fugitive, but I just noticed when you get the alien stories, you get a little bit of wackiness sometimes with Rod.
oh, it's a
And
little bit like the guy in the day the Earth stood still. Although that guy has more power and agency, where this alien has been shot and is on its back. So
yeah, And just to be clear, he was the guy that was when they were when the officer was going over the everything that he had saw in the spaceship. He was the one that laid on the ground and was shot, and then he came back to life and walked in the bar, right? That was the same.
I think the body might have been the other officer, and this guy just
Oh, the
showed
other
up.
officer. Okay.
Yeah, like
That
it seems he
no matter how
acts.
many times I've seen it, that part still kind of confuses me. Was he the guy laying on the ground covered up, and that's why they're so shocked when he walks back in the bar? Uh,
Not now you're making me double take on it, but yeah, when I was watching, I had the body on the ground as the other officer, and then the
yeah.
alien comes in, which I guess he did accidentally kill the officer, if I get it right. We
Yeah.
didn't see that. That's all off screen action, so we don't really know.
And the officer that is left standing and reporting all this before we get the title credits and everything. I don't know, man. He gives me Barney Fife vibes. I don't know, Officer Barney Fife,
Oh, they
from the Andy
certainly,
Griffith show.
yeah, they certainly don't paint this town as having, well, needing law enforcement for the most part. So
Yeah.
it's, like, not obviously not much goes on here. So this is a extremely big event in this town. I mean, even when they
Um,
bring in the other guys, like, why did you bring us here? There's nothing going on.
yeah. And I like the at the beginning of the episode just leading the mule to say, yeah, yeah, you're in Mexico. We got a donkey. See, hey, they're wearing ponchos. See, hey, of course we're in Mexico. See, the set design did look a little cheap.
Oh, this is
Um,
very much look like, some backlot stuff. The first shot, it's like I felt like I could like touch the matte painting.
yeah, or like you could just knock over the like there's just little cardboard cutouts holding up walls or something, just knock them over.
But that could also partly be, the thing about like just watching it in high definition. So
Yeah.
I know the grave, I could like see the corner of the wall and of the when they had the
And
matte
you got it
painting
even
on.
higher definition than I did because I only watched a Paramount version and a DVD version. And I don't know what quality Paramount version is in the Paramount app, but you watched the Blu-ray version, I take it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm catching those details. I will say
And I
the
noticed like sorry to cut you off there, but I noticed something like somebody had pointed out with the DVD set, like in Little Girl Lost, you actually saw the chalk drawings on the wall before the whatever that guy was, the neighbor, whatever, before he started making all the chalk patterns on the wall,
the
you actually saw him
physicist.
before. Yeah, the physicist. Yeah.
Oh, I was I correct about that? Okay, because
Yeah.
I
Oh,
I
so
was like,
you had mentioned it too. Okay, because I've heard other people mention it.
okay, good, because I was sitting there like, am I remembering it wrong? Because I usually,
Yeah.
depending on my schedule, I get one or two views of these in typically. So
Yeah.
sometimes like, did I see that? So just like today, which body was on the ground? um, although I will say it might be my player, but it doesn't happen with other stuff where my Twilight Zone Blu-rays will sometimes just pause for a few seconds for some reason. It happened in this episode, and I thought it was a dramatic pause at first, but just kept going and going. I think it's like the boy asked the alien a question or something, or the other way around. But there's this dramatic pause, and I was like, "Oh, my Blu-ray's stuck."
So the way the bartender Manilow, is that how you say his name? Cliff Osmond? Is it
Mono,
Manilow? I think the
hold
Manilow.
on, I gotta scroll down, and I can tell you. But I think you might be right. Manilow, you're right.
Yeah. He seemed like a real jerk. And the way you talk to the boy and stuff like that. And heck, you doing Stargazer when you're looking there up at the stars. They didn't ever tell you how to sweep with a broom or pick up a glass.
It makes me think of the Bill Hicks thing where he's like, "Yeah, I'm sitting in a Waffle House in the deep South, and the waitress comes up and said, 'What are you reading for?'" It's like, oh, that's an interesting question. Not what am I reading? No, it's like, why are you reading or something?
Yeah.
What you reading for? He's like, I've never been asked that. I guess it's so. I get a lot of information, become smarter, and don't have to be a waffle waitress.
And then one thing I did think was funny too was when his character got hit over the head with the bottle. Because when after he acted like he was gonna serve the guy some wine, he was gonna serve the foreign visitor, the alien, some wine. He dropped the bottle and the bottle didn't break, and that house somehow surprised him. He went to go run off, and then the alien grabs the bottle and hits him over the head. Like that's
Well,
not
no,
helping your cause, bro. They already think you're strange.
that bar keeps prop bottles around only. Well, I guess prop one's supposed to break easily though, so I'm
Yeah.
getting it backwards. No, but yeah, Manolo, however we're gonna say it.
Yeah.
He, I mean, they do call him Judas in the episode, so they're not really trying to portray him as a sympathetic figure at any particular point. He's,
No.
I mean, it's kind of like the guy in Dust. who gets a little bit of redemption, unlike this guy, but just it's the out west small town screwball, basically the guy you want to
Yeah.
avoid. So
Yeah, I think that was Thomas Gomez. Yeah. The one in Dust, because he also played in a previous episode too.
that might have been it.
He also
Um,
played an escape clause. Yeah.
right. I did want to just kind of run by how the acting comes through in this one. That was one thing I couldn't put my finger on. Like you said, Zokolov and his bit as the guitarist. What Ignacio? I didn't actually write that down, but um, yeah, you said him and Osmond are quite good, which I would agree with. How was our child acting in this one? I mean, the kid was definitely supposed to
It
be
creeped me out, man.
weird. Yeah,
I thought the kid was an alien. Like I really think the kid was an alien too, and that's the like how he like knew to be so nice to this guy, and they already call him Stargazer and Moonwatcher and everything. So I'm like, I think there's already something a little iffy about this kid, and I think he already had a connection with the alien.
that's
Not
the
saying they
thing.
were from the same planet, but I
But
wanted to believe this kid was an alien somehow.
you get a few of those vibes, which might have been intentional. In the end, I would just say he was extremely spacey. I mean,
Yeah.
today you would assume he's a bit on the spectrum, which I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think they were thinking of in 1962. But
yeah.
hey, maybe they would. The last episode had a mental health PSA, which I also wouldn't expect in 1962. So,
Well, and then one of the upcoming episodes, you're gonna get a Mama's Boy episode.
radio.
Young Man's Fancy.
So I guess
That's a pretty strange one when you guys get to that one.
I actually did give that one view because I had to call off recording, so that one will probably get 3 views. But yeah, I have had my first one, and yes, he's a bit of an odd one. But yeah,
Yeah.
when you have a child actor with 11 credits, and he's playing a kid that's supposed to be weird in the first place. It's kind of like I'm not sure. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and say did a good job because it works well in the episode, but or he
Yeah.
was directed well, or a combination of both. But how
Um,
about Jeffrey Horn? He also had a bit of odd about him being the alien. I guess he acted a
yeah.
little alien, which works well.
Um, I wonder how he knew to go inside the bar and ask for wine too. Like, is that already a thing on his own planet? Like, yeah, give me a glass of wine.
Maybe when he was researching Earth, he was very excited about that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then he probably had one regret on this whole trip too.
Getting
When he
shot.
gives Pedro the gift, he doesn't tell him what it is, but he's like, I'll explain later. I bet you by
Yeah,
the end of the episode, he was regretting not telling him earlier. That gift was.
yeah. That's a bit too much plot armor. It's just like I can't tell you
Yeah.
now because this needs to be the twist. So I'll tell you
Yeah.
late, or I won't tell you later. You'll have to find out a different way.
You know what? Like this episode can be so dumb and like not that great, but it's one of the episodes that's most relevant in today's world because look, how would people react if there was an alien coming to this planet trying to give us vaccines and we didn't know it? It's not like we would be like, oh, we come in peace. Like we've seen movies made about this, you know. We're either going to
Maybe.
act in peace or they're going to turn on us, or we're not going to act in peace. We're going to be hostile, and it never works out well.
Yeah, like this episode takes for 1962. It does take a few steps towards at least trying to be more profound sci-fi. The script isn't the best Serling, and it's a little wonky, but I feel like it is trying to be intelligent sci-fi.
Yeah,
Uh, but and on those terms, I was like, oh, it's kind of an anti Roddenberry thing in that the people in this are horrible, and I mean, the aliens are more like the Roddenberry ideal. Although he doesn't have good protocol, he certainly doesn't know how to do a first contact, so he ends up dead. Um,
yeah,
although I guess in Star Trek, it's like the future people are idealistic, not necessarily the present day people. But
and I had somebody bring up something with Star Trek though. How did they always know how to communicate with every other different planet? Because
uh,
I don't follow Star Trek that closely. So is there like a loophole that got around that? How they were able to understand everybody's language?
they're supposed to have universal translators, which the original series I don't know that because it's just they got a cloth badge, but their badge in the later ones is supposed to translate for them.
Oh, okay.
So they're probably hearing like the real voice and the tinny voice. sometimes it's like, oh, you actually learn to speak Klingon. You're not just using the universal translator, which I can kind of get living in Japan because a lot of times, phones are good enough now. I can usually snap a picture and translate, or if I need to get a point across, I can use my phone as a bit of a universal translator in Japan because my Japanese is embarrassingly still pretty not good. So,
Yeah. My Japanese is embarrassingly bad. So yeah.
oh yeah, but living
You want to,
living
yeah.
in
No, I know you live there, but no, I've been following this Japanese wrestling company for almost a year. And no, I haven't picked up any Japanese stuff. Except I know what Momo means, you know. Isn't that
okay,
peach or something?
yeah, that's Peach
Momo? Yeah, yeah,
Momotaro.
yeah. Well, no, there's this chick, Momo Wanatabe.
Oh,
She's like
okay,
the
okay.
black peach or something.
Right, right. Oh, okay. Kuramomo. Kuro would be black. So, I mean, I know a few words, but yeah.
Yeah,
I in general, I assume. Well, I guess how I'm using my phone is probably how they are actually communicating with these aliens on Star Trek. The
yeah.
last season, the new season of Discovery is about to come out, but the last season of Discovery had a good sequence of episodes where they're trying to communicate with the alien that they cannot use the universal translator with.
I
Although
know,
you could also complain they are ripping off Arrival a little bit, but hey, rip off smart sci-fi. Why not?
yeah. Before we jump off the Star Trek topic real quick, or Star Trek. I always want to say track. Why do I always want to say Star Trek? But Star Trek, I've seen a lot of the original and all the spin-offs. If I had to devote my time to one, like whether it's Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Next Generation, what would you say devote the time to? Enterprise? Like which one?
At the end of the day, probably next gen TNG is the one to go with.
Okay.
Starting with season 3, and then maybe spiraling. Well, watch the pilot, but then go to season 3, and once you're into it, maybe go back to season 1 and 2. There are
Yeah.
some very good ones, especially in season 2, but it's a lot less consistent until it gets to season 3. So
Yeah. Voyager and Enterprise, I always remember being advertised the most because when I used to watch wrestling, like in the early 2000s, like WWF, and I think they were on UPN, so they always
yes,
got
UPN.
advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
and like Rock was like doing like a wrestling move one time on Voyager, I think, or Deep Space Nine.
He's on Voyager, last season of
Yeah,
Voyager. Yeah, I was gonna say for the Twilight Zone fan, the original series or Voyager are probably the better bets because Voyager is the trippiest of Star Treks. They certainly have I would say they have the most Twilight Zone episodes, and the original series has a few just by virtue of probably being in the same era of TV production and being a sci-fi.
yeah,
Um, and then that's one of the reasons I like watching Space 1999. Some of those get very Twilight Zoney, which
yeah. You know,
I
once you
enjoy.
guys wrap that up, that podcast, I'm probably gonna go and seek those episodes out because I'm following the podcast episode by episode. I'm like, I don't know if I'll watch season two, but every season one episode you guys have talked about, I kind of am interested.
Yeah, they're all on YouTube. So that's one thing. The Twilight Zone is not
Oh,
available on
nice.
YouTube. It's still a prime, kind of a prime source. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, they got a ride in
Well, they
Orlando.
did. There is a step up with you can get. There's more free access to Twilight Zone now in America because you can use the Pluto TV app, which has everyone minus season four, or you can use
Minus
the
four,
free.
weird.
Yeah, or you can do the Freevee app, which is like a spin-off free app of Amazon Prime,
Okay.
and that has every season, including season four. But you just get ads with it.
Yeah. Well, no, I've become such a physical media guy. Just like I was telling you
Yeah,
before the proper episode, I just bought a
it's just
bunch
I
of
wish packaging
Blu-rays
can
and
get better when you buy longer seasons. Like it seems like the packaging is what's like they'll sell you a cheap set. But then unless you get like a definitive edition or something where they're each packaged like individually, some complete sets will just have stacked DVDs. And I'm like I literally have the Three Stooges collection. They're literally like 50 DVDs just stacked on top of each other.
that's how the Voyager one's in pretty weirdly packed. My Twilight Zone is in this black case. It
Yeah.
immediately came out of
Yeah.
the commercial. I think it was cracked when I got it. It
Yeah, I
was
think the only good packaging with the Twilight Zone was the definitive edition that came out like the 90s or the early 2000s.
right,
Because you
right.
got each season individually packaged. Or like Night Gallery. I got Night Gallery and that was only 3 seasons. So that's pretty well packaged too.
Yeah, that one I still have in its proper packaging. The '80s
Yeah.
Twilight Zone's in its proper packaging.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, I just more and more. I think people are starting to realize like streaming is screwing with you. You think you have something and then you don't, or you have it
Yeah,
in some weird form.
that's what I hate, like when the rights expire on something. And
Yeah,
then
like,
it's like best you have it, or you never know who's going to get canceled or
and I recently was listening to someone talking about the stay stream and mentioning if you wanted to watch all of the Despicable Me Minions movies, you
Mhm.
would have to go to like 3 or 4 different streaming services. There's like no place you could just watch all of them.
Wow. And here I thought Peacock would have had them because I thought Peacock owned all that
That was five
stuff.
months ago or so when I heard that. So who knows? Maybe it's changed by now.
Yeah. And now Illumination just came out with another spinoff, Migration, with about ducks and stuff.
But
They're
yeah,
making
yeah,
the movies.
yeah. We don't. We maybe we need the water cooler entertainment again, or just that's gonna be the next big thing when everyone does decide to watch or watch the same thing.
Yeah.
I guess just to get back to the episode a little bit, I think we're betraying that there's not like a ton to talk about with this episode. We haven't gotten to the end yet, so we'll definitely do that. But um, I'm just looking at the beginning. Oh, at the beginning when they're talking about broken bushes, I started wondering if that was like an early version of crop circles. Like maybe this guy had been making some crop circles in the what do they have, cornfields or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know. We
Like
don't
in that
actually
movie
see that.
Signs with Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. That has a fun one. So that has a fun alien
I
too.
can't believe that movie is already 22 years old. Signs. Like, oh,
Oh, ouch. Yes, it is. Okay.
dating me now.
No, I was just watching something. I forgot. Yeah, yeah. Time just spirals as you get older, I guess, is the
Yeah.
main thing.
You
Oh,
know, one thing I noticed, I was totally down for a Mexican episode of The Twilight Zone, but just this isn't what I wanted. Like anytime we go to Mexico or we go to a different place, it's kind of cool. But just with the cheap set design, it was just like, yeah.
yeah. It's
I
like
mean,
I
I
feel
didn't
like
feel like I was in Mexico.
I'm getting a full on like Hollywood version, or I'm from
Yeah.
Atlanta, and at the South North Carolina border on I-95 is this ridiculous tourist trap called South of the Border, which I think their mascot's called Pedro, and it's probably kind of offensive now. And the food there's terrible, but it's just like gaudy, and it's yeah, it's definitely a spectacle. But so this episode is better than that, but not a whole lot better. I think. Again, I haven't been in the area. I don't really know. You were saying how would this be if they made it today? I think now it'd probably be in a Nebraska town. You'd want to put it with the. I feel like they put this one in America now for some reason. Am I wrong?
This episode already did happen. Took place in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Why not? They still got the craft in the body. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, it is interesting though. Now that you're mentioning, I am kind of wondering if Rod was drawing a bit of the line of Roswell in here because you got the crash ship. Theoretically, the government could get hold of that. In this case, maybe it would be the Mexican government. I don't know, but yeah, and you have the alien corpse by the end. I never heard about a cure to cancer with the Roswell incident, but they probably wouldn't tell us if that happened for sure. Well,
Mhm.
he gave us a cure for cancer and we burnt it. Oops. Nobody wants to hear that.
No, no, and that's one of the nice lines, and probably one of the best lines ever in the Twilight Zone. And again, it comes out of this episode, but it's when he says, "We have not just killed a man, we have killed a dream."
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty powerful when I said that.
And then the image that got me is the guy that shoots him. You watch his fingers shaking on the trigger for a full second or two, and I
Yeah,
thought that was effective. It wasn't just that he shot it, but it's almost like he might have, somewhere between accidentally and intentionally
yeah.
shot him.
Well, he got and that's a relative to today's world too. Officer that's in fear of his life, a young rookie officer that doesn't really know what he's doing. There's a situation he could be in fear of something else, could be in fear of his life, and he's just sitting there, itchy trigger finger, and then boom, when somebody yells, like
And it
there's a
doesn't
lot
have
of
to be an
officers
alien for
these days.
that
I'm
guy.
not I'm not going to get too political here, but there's a lot of officers that shouldn't be carrying guns around these days that don't deserve that honor.
Well, I live in a country where the officers do not carry guns, so they
I'm
have.
not for I am not for defund the police, though. I will say that. I'm not about all that
No, I think
hoopla.
I think it's the same in England. I guess we could ask Luke, but I believe if they really feel they need a gun, you go back to the police office and get him out of the locker.
And we
Or
know who the biggest shit disturber was in this whole mob crowd. It was that woman in black. I don't know if she had a name in this episode, but the one where she's like, "Oh, he's going after the boy." Like that's what caused that officer to go shoot. Like, oh, I guess I got to do something then. It's like he barely moved. He wasn't going after nobody. Like he was just like, show him what I gave you, show him the gift. Ah, he's attacking the boy.
that it made me think of the early South Park episode where he's coming right for us, and then they shoot the game because you can only shoot the animal if they're attacking you. So,
Yeah.
sort of that thing. Uh, I guess I'll get to my questions in a moment, but did you have any other big observations you wanted to put out on this one?
No, just other than between the woman in black and Manolo, the bartender, those two seem like the biggest jerks in this. Like everybody else probably could have gave the alien a nicer time, but when you had those two being kind of how they were, it was hard.
Yeah,
And I thought everything was kind of rushed. I know we only got 25 minutes minus commercials, but you literally went from like him being in the bar to like him being in his bed to the bartender calling the cops to them having a standoff on the outside when he tries to give him the gift and make him believe that he's got this cure for the world, uh vaccines against cancer and stuff. So it feels very rushed. Like not saying it should have been a longer episode, but it felt a little rushed. Everything was kind of boom bam boom.
yeah, we might be eating our words a bit in season four. Again, I don't know. I've only seen two or three of the hour-long ones. So
There's a couple season fours that needed the time to play out.
yeah,
There's a couple, yeah.
I know there's a few that definitely
Like when you
have
get to
some
on Thursday,
attitude.
we leave for home. That needed an hour because that's like a psychological dissecting episode.
Right.
Like you're in the psyche of someone, so that that's not something you're going to wrap up in 25 minutes.
Actually, I was sitting here thinking, I guess maybe as my last random observation, is if the alien were a little more puppety, weird looking, with him and the kid and the authorities chasing them, we'd kind of have a proto ET going on here.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of do, except that instead of looking like a
Or or I think you guys have covered this episode before. Yeah, you guys have covered the episode The Fugitive. The
yes,
character J. Pat O'Malley, if it was like an old man looking alien, would they have been as sketchy about him, or would they be like, oh, look at this old man, he's so innocent,
yeah,
he
first
won't hurt
impressions
nobody?
are important, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, I guess my first question on this will be who went through the Twilight Zone in this episode?
Well, gets weird. Um, I want to say nobody went to the Twilight Zone, but then again, somebody had to go to the Twilight Zone in this village because you just saw an alien from another planet, even though he wasn't in alien form.
Right?
Or is the alien in the Twilight Zone?
That was going to be my answer. I think it helps that Pedro is kind of weird. The person who you associate with and the person who's thinking you basically understand, except for the wine thing, like you mentioned,
Yeah,
is the alien. I mean, that's the one that's the sympathetic character here. So
yeah.
it's like a Star Trek mission gone horribly wrong in this case because he didn't have the right protocols probably. But yeah, I felt like I was sympathizing with him. So the villagers are more like from the Twilight Zone in this.
The
Well,
villagers
at the
too.
same time, they act too real in some ways because, like you said, people would flip out in this way if they thought they had an alien around.
I got two vibes from the mob. That's what I'm calling the mob. The villagers. They gave
The
me like
villagers
the mob from Frankenstein vibes. And when they were all shooting, when they had all their guns at the end, the officers, they
Frau
gave me like
Buchler.
what were you saying?
Was it Frau Buchler? Is that her name? Hey!
Oh yeah, the lady. And then the other vibes it gave me was Halloween 4 when all those officers had Michael Myers and they gunned him down when he was outside the school or whatever. They
He
were
didn't have
already
a cure
just
to
like
cancer though.
unloading. No, he didn't. No,
Well,
no.
unless him stabbing you is the cure. I don't know.
Yeah. That was one of those jumping the gun moments too. Hey, he's in the school. There was nobody in the school, but
Just
what's
blew
he
the
doing
school
by the
up.
school? Let's shoot this crazy asshole.
But
But
yeah, I
yeah,
was
that's oh go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I think like when I asked the question, I was like, oh, it's the alien. So I guess I'm gonna be on that side that Williams is the person or the alien who went through the Twilight Zone. This,
Yeah, unless Pedro, man, he's always been in the Twilight Zone, I feel like.
yeah, he's
That
so trippy.
stargazer.
Uh-huh.
Maybe because he didn't have a lot of dialogue either. I don't know. Like he
And
just like when he did speak, it wasn't a lot.
it was very drifty, and that's why I
Yeah.
was like, is this kid a good actor or a bad actor? I can't quite tell because his character is so odd.
His parents like forced him into acting when he was young, and then when he was wise enough to realize he's like, I don't want to do this, mom and dad.
Could have been, I don't know, but again, I think he works in this episode, so it doesn't really matter what his actual skill level was. Um,
Yeah.
well, let's first, I guess, say, does the alien deserve? If we're going by my opinion, does the alien deserve his trip into the Twilight Zone?
Well,
Um,
we're going to define it. How this trip is that he deserved the end of his trip.
well,
How his trip ended.
a lot of trips end this way in the Twilight Zone, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think a little bit, yes. We've been talking so much Star Trek in this episode because they would do this a little more smartly, um, I think. But then,
Well, plus we would also get an hour to dissect it too.
yeah, and of course we would be the aliens in that episode. I don't think we see
Yeah.
the this would be an alien planet in that episode. But he's so not. I guess he's being not careful because he's carrying a cure to cancer. I guess, but I think yeah, he seems like a amateur at doing this alien stuff. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Maybe he had good intentions at first because he's like, if I come off having Jesus vibes,
So I'll
they'll
murder.
see
I'll
me as
not
a saint.
murder, but maybe accidentally. But I'll kill a guy and see how that works as an introduction.
You
So
know what? The way he got hit with that wine bottle, that bartender, Manolo, I'm surprised that bottle didn't break. It didn't break when it hit the floor. It didn't break over that guy's head.
that's his alien powers. Maybe I don't know. He's got
Yeah.
a glass inducer around him or something. Keeps it all together. um. So that's my deserved question. I'm gonna ask if you would like to put anyone else under the microscope of that question.
No, guess I'm good with that one.
Okay. Let's do a tripometer on it then. 0 to 5, 0 being not trippy, 5 being extremely trippy. Where do you want to put this one?
Hmm. I would have to say it's 0 for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
but for the villagers and for the aliens, it might be a tripometer of 1 for them because they're out of their element. One, they're both seeing something foreign on the other side
Okay.
that they don't
I'm
know.
I'm gonna
But as
put
far
a
as what we're tripping on, I don't think we're tripping on anything.
okay. No, that's cool. I'm gonna put a gentleman's 2.5 because I feel like, especially in 1962, this was kind of an interesting and different way to portray an alien. Like I said, this aliens are not usually shown as being like sympathetic visitors. Even in the day the Earth stood still, he kind of threatens to destroy us all.
Well, think of
So
how many you said we weren't used to something like this, but think of how many times it kind of became played out with the whole boy befriends an alien, gets misunderstood. You know, like what you're mentioning earlier, ET, you know.
right, but that's 20 years later. So I
Yeah.
feel like this is an early example of that. So
Yeah.
maybe I am trying to make my score relate to the 1962 viewer of this, who might be a
Yeah.
little bit like, oh, the
I would say
aliens like
what would make it a little trippier is if he did something like in The Fugitive where he transferred to his alien form, or if he like turned into something just to show like, okay, he is really like we know he's alien, but just to be like, okay, now
yeah.
you got the green head, you got the funny ears, you got the whatever.
But like I said, I kind of like they didn't do that in here because I ended up like mostly associating with the alien in this episode. So uh,
Yeah.
I didn't have to, But then you get people. It's not too long before you get to Spock. He's got the pointy ears and eyebrows, and people dig Spock, right? So
Yeah. I did have a IMDb review to read on this. I know you usually do this on Films and Filth, but
yeah, go for it.
I found one. This one is 10 out of 10. That's why I had to go for it.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if this person's being serious or not. What if there were life on another planet? If you are new to the Twilight Zone, I do not want to give the story away, but what if a visitor from another planet really was just visiting, wanting us to help? How would we view the visitor? This episode is one of the greatest ever Twilight Zone episodes, especially if no one has xenophobic tendencies and believes that all centennial, I think life it says, should work together for the common good. It will bring you to tears by the end.
Okay, yeah, that is a little hard to tell if that's authentic or not, but yeah, for me,
I like how they put in there if you're not a xenophobe.
yep. While we're taking things from other podcasts, we have a lot of mission log folks here, and the question on mission log is, does this episode hold up? Where this one, it just holds up. That's kind of where I would put it.
The message holds up, but the overall episode might not. But the message that Rod is trying to say, like, I think, like, even then, like, you knew we're not going to approach a foreign land visitor um in any way but we know how, you know. It's
Yeah,
just hostileness, kind of.
I guess I'm putting this one at like 51%. Like it's in the better half of the Twilight Zone, but only just.
Mhm.
So,
I
like
was
again,
surprised it had a 6.7 rating, I think. Whereas there's some episodes like I don't mind the episode Sounds and Silences. I actually think that's a little bit better than this episode, but that's only got like a 5.9 on IMDb.
um,
Jeez.
it might. Another thing. Watching this, I had just before another thing I was mentioning to you is I had watched the Coen Brothers movie Hail Caesar, which features a lot of sets. Like you see them
Yeah.
making different kinds of movies, and that might have kind of transferred because I watched that, took a bath, I guess, and then watched this. So the
Yeah.
settiness of it didn't bother me because I had just watched
Well,
that
that's fine.
movie.
It's just like some of the Western episodes too, you know, it's just I don't know. Sometimes I don't mind if it's got the play look to it, but sometimes when you could tell it's on a set, I don't know, that can bug me. Like Showdown with Lance McGrew or something. You could tell that was on the Hollywood backlot. Or that one they had that was on the same backlot as Back to the Future, that one episode from season one that I'm blanking on right now.
Oh, I think that's Where Is Everybody. That's the first one, I think. Yeah, because
Hmm.
they were still at Universal when they did that one.
It's either that or I think it might be Mr. Denton on Doomsday. Yeah, I could be wrong, but you might be right too.
Yeah, so some of them get
Oh,
used quite well. So
I do have something to ask you while we're still in the zone here.
sure.
Um, is Twilight Zone marathon a thing in Japan on New Year's?
Twilight Zone is not much of a thing in Japan. I think it's actually
Mhm.
called, I think the Japanese style is like Mystery Zone. Um, weirdly, I've never been a marathon guy. I mean, I've been in Japan for 15 years where no, we don't have them. So
Yeah.
it's more like I put a few on. Growing up, it would have been, I guess, more of the Star Trek marathon that was on UHF
Well, as far
TV.
as I
So
know, it's always been sci-fi, but a
mm.
lot of people stay from sci-fi away from sci-fi now because they butcher the episodes for time purposes and everything.
Oh no,
So you have
okay,
other options like Pluto and stuff. Well, like literally, like the Howling Man transformation scene, they'll take that out of the sci-fi version where he's transforming into the devil.
okay. Glad I have my physical media.
Yeah. Or like the Living Doll episode with the Talkie Tina doll. Like when they had the doll getting put in a vice and lit on fire and stuff, they cut all that out.
Oh no, that's
And then I heard this one might be a little more understandable because we've changed in the world, but they cut out the word retard from Nick of Time with William Shatner.
yeah, you can see where you
Yeah,
would
you can kind
make
of
that
see that one a
decision.
little more
Yeah,
understandable. Yeah.
if you got to make a cut. I
Yeah.
know Mark has mentioned on Simpsons when they're cut for syndication, they'll cut the irrelevant parts that also happen to be like the funniest parts.
You know what I've also heard too, because Disney's got all the rights to all the episodes of Simpsons to stream, except for the newest season. They'll always have the past like 30 something seasons. And from what I've heard, they've edited them on Disney. So which would make sense because it's Disney.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen a new Simpsons episode for a good 10 plus years. Not saying maybe I should, but I haven't, which
Yeah.
seems to
Well,
be a
what do
lot
they
of
say is
people's
usually the
recurring
sweet
theme.
spot, like seasons 1 to 7 or 1 to 10 or something? That's
More
just
more more like 3 to 10. The
yeah.
first couple are a little
Yeah,
shaky.
one is a little forgettable, I guess, except for I think is that one the one where Bart gets an F? I think that episode's in that one. Yeah.
It's been a while
Where
since
he's
I
trying
watched that.
hardest, he's trying his hardest not to fail and he still fucking fails.
I
Sorry,
know,
drop my
no
F
problem.
bomb.
I know my DVDs start at season 3, so one and
Yeah.
two I haven't thought about for some time. But I know I watched one a lot when it was on air and it
Support
was new, and
physical
I
media, everybody.
yeah.
If you can. If you can't, I understand. But if you can, hell, I still use a VCR, damn it.
Oh wow, okay, I haven't. Although my daughter's been getting into cassette taping things off the radio, so There's a 14-year
Oh,
old
that's
doing
a
that.
flashback right there. You should tell her to
Yeah,
make a mixtape.
yeah, really. I guess I'll wind this one down unless you want to throw out any final points.
um, I guess that is it. You're gonna have some better ones coming up. You're gonna have a little bit of a stinker coming up, but then you're gonna have some better ones. Like obviously, this next episode you're gonna cover is the dummy. So
Right, right. Which
you mean
yeah.
you got Uncle Ben in that episode in Spider-Man, in the
Oh
Spider-Man
yeah, yeah.
movies?
Cliff Robertson's back. They did say
Yeah,
that they made him the
and
marquee at the bumper at the end of this. That's
I
what
don't know how
Rod says.
knowledgeable you are with Gomer Pyle and all that, but Sergeant Carter from Gomer Pyle's on episode 2.
I know I saw it, when I was like 8 because it was on the
I'm
Super
like this
Station
30-year
stuff.
old who likes to watch things from the 60s and the 70s. I don't know. I'm an old man in a young guy's body.
There's a few people that are into that vibe. So
I never pictured I'd be this guy that just sits around and watch Hitchcock and Twilight Zone and Thriller and just Night Gallery and all these old stuff, old
there is
movies.
there is something nice to. I mean, now everything's got to be epic serialized television. There's something very nice to just being able to throw on a movie or an episode of something, and it is completely self-contained. I mean, that's kind of nice. Like
Yeah,
you can just go watch any Mission Impossible or original Star Trek episode. But say Discovery can be very good, but you can't usually just pop in and watch a random episode. You gotta like watch a season, which is a little bit more of a commitment
I got to get the
these things
update.
want to make.
Have they released Oppenheimer yet in your area? Have they released it yet?
Apparently, they're going to in a month or two. It's still not out, but they're going to. So,
That
I,
was such a great movie, man.
I
I watched both those and that and Killers of the Flower Moon. I think Oppenheimer was better. Killers of the Flower Moon, I don't think it had right to be any longer than Oppenheimer. I don't
I
think it needed to be longer.
I did see Oppenheimer, which I yeah, but because using some other means,
Yeah.
Killers of
Yeah.
the Flower Moon, not yet. I wanted to see that in the theater. It did show in Japan, but it showed for 1 week and I missed it. So oops.
Oh, damn.
Oh well. What I do last week, I went to see Wonka just because I hadn't been in the theater for a while. I wanted to see a movie. So,
Yeah, I
um,
got 2 free movie credits because my last month one rolled over. So I'm going to see 2 movies this month. I just haven't decided which one I want to see yet.
I might have gone to see. I might see one. Well, I might have gone to see one tomorrow. Sorry, that's really weird tense. Basically, I have the time tomorrow night, but I already looked at the listings and there's nothing I want to see. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess I'll shut this one down for today
Sorry
by
for the
doing.
audio listeners, by the way. I had about 3 coughs in this episode. I should have muted myself.
Oh, I didn't notice them. So, um,
Okay.
I just luck away with my microphone because I can, and nobody
Yeah.
hears it because this microphone only
I got
takes
like
the
this
sound
mute
wave.
button I can click on here, but I never
Yeah,
use it
yeah.
as often.
No, my mute is just like go away from the microphone for a second. uh, Anyway, as for this, it is Time Enough Podcast. You can support us on Patreon at Podcastio Podcastius, where you get episodes of this early with a little more chit chat. Films and Filth we mentioned. That's where we talk about the top 100 and bottom 100 movies as rated by IMDb users. We mentioned Space 1999 a little bit. That is Podcast 1999, where we talk about episodes of that. And there's some video game ones with Luke Loves Pokemon, Hyrule Field Report, and Game Show, where gamers game each other about the games, which I know you're following, what, all 2 or 3 of the gaming
I
ones?
follow 2, but I don't follow Game Show. And for other people that are interested, they did an update on Monster Hunter.
Okay.
They
Oh,
did,
yeah. There we
yeah.
go.
So because a new one of those games are coming out, so I'm sure that will be another series when that game comes out.
Yeah. In the Podcastio world, I am the least gamery, so I can just rely on you to update people on those. I mean, I don't. I play a few casual games for my iPad. That's about it these days, on the train or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, if you see an alien and he's not shooting at you, don't shoot at him. Although he did
because
shoot
he
at
might
that
have a
one
gift
guy.
for you, and it
He
might be
did shoot.
vaccines.
He did shoot that one guy though.
But who shot first?
Mm. Jr.
I thought it
Yeah,
was Maggie. I thought it
there,
was Maggie.
yeah. There's an old man reference.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and cut there, and I'll hit the record button.